Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show today. We are going to have another good show today. And we are going to have a good show whether somebody or folks, as yesterday did, decide that they're going to change the topic of the show by calling in or not. But it was an interesting show. I think those of you who are coming back today must admit we had a great show yesterday. We had some great people yesterday, and they had some great opinions, and they had some great statements, and they had some great just about, sorry about that, just about everything. So we're going to have a good show. We're going to talk jobs today. We're going to talk about the second, what's known as the second Bill of Rights as well, which has to do with what FDR had to say was the promise that he wanted to make, or that Americans should make. Now, before we, without further ado, I want to ask all the folks that are just coming here for the first time to please go ahead and share immediately. If you're just coming on to the show, the way we get these things moving is for you to go ahead and share the show immediately. So if you're just coming on now, please, please, please go ahead and share the show, because that is how we are going to make a difference. We need folks to help Facebook. In fact, right now we have Zuckerberg in front of Congress, and Zuckerberg in front of Congress now he's telling them exactly why it is that probably you don't need as many new regulations, and why what they're doing is just fine. And I have a few things to say about Facebook before we get started. I think I'm in favor of Zuckerberg. But anyhow, folks, if you're just coming on to watch the show now, please go ahead and share. What do you think about Zuckerberg? What do you think about Facebook? What do you think they ought to do? Anyhow, I have some thoughts there that I'd like to go over. But again, please, those of the new folks, they're constantly coming in. So that's why you hear some of me repeating myself. But please go ahead and share these programs. Likewise, please do remember that this is a progressive show. And what we ask is that for those who have the wherewithal to please remember to subscribe if you have the ability to. Our subscriptions are like crazy, ridiculous coffee type of deal. Patreon.com, patreon.com/politics done right. This is a call-in show, folks, and I would love to hear from you. There's a call-in number on the screen right now. Sorry about that again. It's 646-716-5812. Yesterday, somebody called early on into the show, and I picked it up, and they changed the direction of the show, but they changed the direction to a show in a positive manner. And given the topic that we're going to have today, a lot of what we discussed yesterday could actually bleed into what we're going to talk about today. The topic is called Remember FDR's Second Bill of Rights, a job top tit. In other words, what the Second Bill of Rights said is that the first thing on the bill is that everyone should have a right to a job. Everyone should be guaranteed a job. People want to know, how can that really be done? It can be done. For those that are just coming in, just starting, folks, please, I implore you, please go ahead and share this on your wall, share this on your page, tweet this show right now. Let's go ahead and build momentum for a progressive program, a progressive thing with whose intent is to really have progressive movement. Anyhow, before I start the show, I want to talk about Facebook a little bit. I mean, I think this thing about Facebook is a lot overblown, not about the Russian part, but the part about privacy. I'm going to tell you something. Personally, I'm all over Facebook. That is how we promote our website. That is one of the ways that is. We promote our websites. We promote our values. We promote Politics Done Right. We promote egbertowillies.com. We promote theliberalnetwork.com, Single Payer Healthcare Now, and all these other websites that are informational. but also personally, I use Facebook. The thing about using anything on the internet, and this should apply to anybody that's listening to me right now, anybody who's on the internet, there's a big scare that went on after Cambridge Analytica talk about all your data going somewhere or somebody collecting your data, as if that is some sort of a big news or something that is not occurring already. Here's the deal. Your bank gets a whole lot more information than Facebook does. Your bank gets a whole lot more information than Facebook does. And I'm talking about information that matters. People can take your identity. They get that kind of information. Facebook does not. Facebook gets information that tracks you. What kind of things you like to buy? Where are you? What kind of telephone numbers do you call in case you have, in case you opted in to do those things? Those are things that you voluntarily give to Facebook. And, there should be no expectation at all of privacy. Whenever you are on the internet, it is imperative that you believe, in as much as you try to be, a whole lot of people, when they use Facebook, they put all kinds of, Facebook allows you to put all kinds of controls on Facebook, where you can decide who sees your friends, who are your friends, whether you allow people to see who your friends are. All those kinds of controls are already on Facebook. Very few people use them. Some use them. But even when those controls are on, there are ways that they're broken. My thing is, if you are on the internet, folks, make believe that somebody is going to see your data. So if you don't want anybody to see your data, don't put it on Facebook, don't put it on your phone, and don't give it to your bank. That is just the way it is. If you have any secrets, your secrets have to be your secrets. And the only way to maintain a secret really is if you were to adopt some other identity that isn't associated with you. But there's really no privacy. And all these technologies that come out to make you more private and to do, they can all be busted, and all they do in the long run is slow things down. What I say to do is, if you want to be very private, and I don't know who really wants that kind of privacy right now, stay out of the system. But again, like I said, personally, I'm an open book. And not only, and one of the reasons, as a political activist myself, one of the reasons I believe in being an open book is, unlike what the Russians did behind the scenes, that you don't know exactly what their values are. If I'm somebody coming trying to tell you that progressive values are the things that we need to support, and that we need to support these types of policies, you better know that you can find out who the hell I am, to make sure that I'm not some stooge of some corporation or some stooge of some country trying to promote as if it is something intrinsic to me, but being from somebody else. So I believe in full disclosure. I believe that everybody that's doing this kind of work needs to be wide open. That's why, personally, and in this domain, wide open. Anyway, folks, the name of the show today, remember FDR's second Bill of Rights? A job topped it. A job topped FDR's second Bill of Rights. Those of you that are just coming in, I implore you, I beg you, I ask you to please share the show now on your Facebook page, on your Facebook wall, and anywhere you have the ability to share, whether it's Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, everywhere. Tell people about what we're doing out here. Okay. Every American who wants a job must be guaranteed a job. In our current indoctrination modal, a job as a right or anathema, or jobs as a right or anathema to how we process employment in our minds. We must remember that the plutocracy programmed us. We were programmed to believe that some master is the one who has a job, and if he so desires, you can have it. But that brought in other problems. There were sects of people who folks decided they didn't want to have employed, and there were vendettas against folks who then would remain unemployed. If a job is a right and the private corporation doesn't want to hire you, then something, somewhere, somewhat should be there to hire you. And you are correct, Chase K. Escamilla. Zuckerberg is destroying conservatives. I love the way he came out and spoke about net neutrality, in support of net neutrality, and for all practical purposes, with his very genteel manner, stuffed it right down that senator's from Mississippi's throat. You saw how that happened. That was interesting. Anyhow, the old system, the 76-year-old dude controlling the markets. Yeah, think about that, but not anymore. Not anymore, or that is coming to an end. Okay, continuing. We must remember that the plutocracy programmed us. They decided the rules of engagement. It is our job going forward to crowdsource new rules, after all. Why should we relegate something like the world's economic well-being to a few whose only concern is to maximize their wealth with extractive principles that continue to degrade the well-being of every single American? Why should we do that? We should not be sitting here waiting for Exxon to decide how hiring is performed in this country, Shell or IBM or any one of these big companies. We shouldn't be having these guys decide the structure of our economy. The reality of this anyway is that most people don't work for these big corporations, even though these big corporations are the ones who make the rules. I mean, most Americans will sit down there because there are big corporations all over the place. They would somehow come under the false belief that these are the guys who really make things happen, but that's not the case. The folks who really make things happen are the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of those mom and pop stores you see throughout your city, throughout your town, throughout the highway. The sum total of all of those things is what makes America great. But the ones who the rules are written for and written by are those big corporations. And that's what I talk about when I say we take back control. Or rather, we take control. We make sure we are the ones making the rules. And how do we get together to do that? We have hundreds of programs like this where we're reaching every single corner of America. And as we reach every single corner of America and educate folks, out of those millions of people will emerge crowdsourced leaders. And out of those crowdsourced leaders, they'll get together and they will come up with functions that are best for us all and not just best for a few. It works. It works. I mean, believe it or not, if you want to look at the foundation of this country, it works. It's just that things eventually get or got out of whack. But anyhow, I don't have any news feed. I didn't look at the news feed today. I was pretty busy, so I didn't go ahead and scour the news. I know there are things happening like El Señor, what's his name? Michael, the person who was Trump's attorney. They went into his hotel, they went into his office, and they went into a second office. And now it seems this investigation is getting closer to Trump by the day. And who knows how Trump is going to react? We don't know. But who cares? What we do care is that he doesn't start some sort of a war. And I have a feeling people are not going to let him do that. Folks, if you're just coming onto the show, please go ahead and share the show on your wall. I see I have a few shares. I would love to have a whole lot more shares so that we can get a whole lot more people into our fold, because I tell you what, this is how we're going to move forward. But folks, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay. And this time I won't make that mistake, as the producer, the writer, the controller of the screens. We have this program 5 days a week, folks. 5 days a week. And on Thursdays, I do it at the KPFT studios, the Pacifica studios, the KPFT Pacifica studios. There I have an engineer, producer, all that good stuff. Here, these studios, we only have all the equipment in front and only one person to control it. The same person that is that's controlling the phones, that's controlling the Wirecast, that's controlling the mixers. And notice I said mixers to get it all through the different networks that we're on. So every time I make a mistake, whenever you see this banner, forgive it, please. But moving on. The title of the blog of the week is Progressives Must Fight for Jobs as a Right Going Forward. I came up with this after reading a New York Post article today by Katrina van der Heugen. I can never say her name right. It's like Katrina van den Heuvel. Okay. Anyhow, This is blog of the week now. We have societies because together, we can do better for all than singly. That's why we have societies. You create a society because by yourself, you can't do as well. These societies use economic systems as mechanisms to structure distribution of resources of the nation. That's the economy. These systems are human-made, and this is what's so important. Whenever you hear mostly folks on the right and even some centrist Democrats talk, they act as if our economy is something that's divine and that it has to follow this specific rule. It is following the rules right now that caters to a particular set of people. Remember that, please. The economy is human-made. The laws of the economy are human-made. And they can be changed, they can be adjusted, and because, again, they are human-made, and as human-made, they can be changed. Remember that, please. Whenever people tell you, well, if you do this, X is going to happen. If you do that, you tell them you are correct. But that is under the current economic model. We can always change economic models. I need to continue reading this, but I want to embed this into people's minds. The reason our economy works the way it works today is because somebody designed it the way it is now. There's nothing that says it is absolute. There's nothing that says we can't change the rules. There's nothing that says we can make sure that the things that don't work in it, we fix it. As opposed to trying to make a reality every single time adapt to these rules, why not change the rules to adapt to reality? And that is what we haven't done. I've always said economists and businessmen, they're not engineers and scientists. And in my opinion, that is the reason why our economy is so old and follows such old rules that continues to bust and crash and bust and crash. You go ahead and you design an economy by scientists and engineers. Scientists come up with the theories. Engineers make it happen. That's why I said scientists and engineers. If we were to come up with scientists and engineers to design an economy based on the realities of what's occurring in the field, everybody in this country would then be doing just fine because it's just an economy. Continuing. These systems are human-made, and the community must make them in a manner that takes humanity, compassion, a willingness to work, and monopoly into account. We must guarantee jobs as a right. If you start under the premise, everybody must be employed and nobody must be poor, that is the premise of the economy you want to create. And then you create that economy. Now that we already have an economy, you take this economy and you make the modifications, not based on the theories that you've been running on all the while, but you make the changes. The problem is on the old theory, so many people have become so nasty wealthy, and on the new theory, that wealth would mean nothing because when you think about it, money is abstract. Okay? Money is an abstract concept. So somebody has $1 billion. If they can't use that $1 billion to buy something, it is worthless. These are the concepts people need to understand, right? If you have $1 million and nobody's willing to give you anything for that $1 million, that $1 million mean absolutely nothing. So the way it works in reality is you have to be convinced that that $1 million or that dollar means something. As an example, if I have a company and nobody wants to work for me, I have no company. If I have a company that requires a lot of labor and nobody wants to work for me, I have no company. Why am I saying that? And I'm not, I'll get back to the blog in a minute. Why am I saying if I have a company and nobody wants to work for me, I don't have a company? Because that is the mindset that every single American worker must have. The reason corporations, the reason people have to fight so hard for 15 is that people put the power into the hands of the employer, not realizing that the power is mutually handled. In other words, that employer has no more power than the person he needs to get the job done. The worker needs the employer unless they have their own business or their own form of making money, but the employer cannot exist without somebody who wants to do that work. And the next concept then is, how then do you equalize the balance? And that's where unions come in, and that's why the Powell Manifesto wanted to destroy unions. That's why Lewis Powell, in his infinite wisdom, wanted to do everything when he came out with that document to ensure that there would be institutes like the Cato Institutes and the Heritage Institutes that can brainwash Americans into thinking that the current economic structure is just the way things need to be. But once you get in your mind, once you get your mindset to the point that there is a balance between the employer and the employee. If employees started to do things like this, Target, let's go ahead and say, all right, we know people need to live and we know people need their money, but what we're going to do is a lot of us are going to pool our monies together. And we are going to randomly select companies in which nobody of value to that company's existence in products, for making products, will go to work. Nobody will go to work. And the rest of us all will pool our monies to pay them the salaries, or comparable salaries minus what donation would have had to be given by all the other folks that are supporting them. In other words, a slightly reduced salary. And say what we're going to start doing is having rolling boycotts of businesses. Watch how quickly the power comes back into balance. But we have to be together to do that. And what occurs in our society today is that we're so disjointed by all these externalities, racism, sexism, and all of these isms that the media plays up to get people riled up, separated, so that they can't come together and beat the plutocracy, is what's going on. What's the purpose of politics done right and companies and talk shows and podcasts and so forth like this? It's to say, folks, forget about the externalities. We are all in the same boat. Not all of us are at the same time are going to realize that we're all in the same boats, but those of us who realize we're in the same boat, if we can be empathetic enough that we can take the crap from those who don't quite know yet, we can be the bridge that builds. We can be the bridge that builds that path to the plutocracy and to get rid of the power that they have. Let me give an example. You're watching me right now. You're listening to me right now. You're listening to this bald-headed black dude. Let's say a skinhead comes in here, and he walks in here and he wants to create some sort of a friction with myself. I have two choices. We can get into an argument, into a fight, or whatever. But my next goal, instead of doing that, is to isolate the situation and show him, or attempt to show him on his own, the commonalities that we have. In other words, I am out there all of the times in my activism, preaching things like race is a social construct, and therefore don't allow the plutocracy to use it as a divisor. So what am I going to do with, am I going to allow, because somebody calls me an N-word, to hate them and then not work with them to beat the plutocracy? No. I am going to go under the tenet that person is confused. That person has the mind of a child. That section of that person's mind is the mind of a child. And I'm not going to beat up on him. I'm not going to argue with him. I'm not going to try to fight him. I am going to do whatever it takes to get to him. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because, remember, I'm already preaching things like race as a social construct. Sexism is just a divisor. If I find a way to supersede that, I can more get to folk and tell them, look, we are together, and what we are going to do together, we're not going to allow what the plutocracy needs to do to keep us apart to not beat them, because there's a hell of a lot more of us than there are of them who are extracting it all from us. Folks, please remember to share this show if you are listening right now. So the goal here, my friends, is for us to think on a higher level, to not think too personally, to not think too much of ourselves, right? And in that process, it allows you to take enough crap from what we would call crap from people who've been misled by the plutocracy in such a manner that you open you're able to closer. I mean, you're not going to win all the time. You're not going to get it all the time, but you give people a path to come to you. And if they have the path to come to you, you can unite. And if you can unite, you can get together, and then you can beat the plutocracy. And that is my goal. My method is different. I'm a left-wing activist. There's no doubt about that. But I'm not going to follow a lot of the methodologies that personally I feel may feel good, but is not going to ultimately accomplish the goal. So my goal as this lefty is to be as engaging as possible, because I know what the rules are, and I know what it is that we have to do to move on. Okay, folks, I'd love to hear from you guys. I need to finish reading the blog of the week, but remember that phone call, 646-716-5812. Again, that number, 646-716-5812. And, of course, I'll be reading the messages that you leave in the Facebook page as well. And I'm asking you as well, my friends, to please go ahead and share these pages. Share this show on your Facebook page, on your Facebook wall, because this is the kind of message that we have to get out there if we are to win. And I didn't give up my software company not to win. I didn't give that up not to win. One of the reasons that I thought, you get to a certain age and you realize that you have to have a purpose in life, and you want to be purposefully successful in whatever you do. That is a goal here, folks. Let's do it together. 646-716-5812. Continue with the blog. Absent jobs in the private sector, the government must provide a livable wage job to ensure that anyone who wants to work can. The Nation's magazine, Katrina Vanden Heuvel, wrote a prescient piece in the Washington Post titled, "Why Democrats Should Fight for the Right to a Good Job," that is worth a read. And she wrote the following. She said, a good jobs guarantee would be a federally funded, locally administered program. Municipalities and towns linked with nonprofits would create community job banks that would organize real jobs with good pay and benefits. By addressing needs largely ignored by private markets, the program would avoid competition with private business. By paying a living wage, most plans call for a minimum of $11 to $15 an hour. With benefits, the jobs guarantee would lift the floor under workers, ensuring that no one works full-time and remains in poverty. Now, it's pretty simple. I mean, that sounds pretty simple. That's going to be hard as hell to implement, but I mean, it has to be done. It's going to be hard to implement because there are a lot of dynamics that you have to ask yourself. Is everybody going to want to work? Are you going to obligate people to work who are able-bodied? There are a lot of legal things and socioeconomic things that we're going to have to ask ourselves in implementing things like this. But this is where you start. And after you start, you create study groups to determine what are the things that you should do. Folks, if you're just tuning in, please go ahead and share the program on your wall, on your pages, Twitter, elsewhere, please. Would much appreciate that. Now, FDR's second Bill of Rights is consistent with every American having a guarantee within the economic model. But Katrina adds the following. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. picked up that charge, understanding that economic justice was an essential challenge of the civil rights movement. After King's assassination, his widow Coretta Scott King helped build the public pressure that culminated in 1978 with the passage of the Humphrey Hawkins Full Employment Act, a bill that was diluted in its final passage to make full employment a goal rather than a guarantee. So, why is this needed, or why? So why is this needed? Is jobs as a right required, especially now? A central cause of the United States has an explicit policy that condemns a percentage of the population to unemployment as a way to manage the business cycle. That's an important statement there. A central cause is that United States has an explicit policy that condemns a percentage of the population to unemployment as a way to manage the business cycle. Currently, the Federal Reserve, concerned about the possibility of inflation not yet apparent, is raising interest rates to slow the economy and keep more people out of work. So, I mean, they designed there to be unemployment to keep prices at a certain level. You know, I mean, just think about what that really means. If that's what you want to do, then you should at least have a fund to fund folk who you're keeping out of a job, right? But that's not how our system currently works either. How would jobs as a right be paid for when dollars are scarce? That's another issue. And here's what our answer is. Much of the cost would be paid by savings from the cost of unemployment, unemployment insurance, food stamps, mass incarceration, opioid and drug treatment, and policing, and more. More would be covered by the increased growth and productivity that would be a direct result of lifting the floor under workers. Well, one of the things she's also talking about when she says at the floor, it means that if you have the public sector that's if you have a public sector that will hire anybody who is unemployed, and the floor there is $15 an hour, that means nobody's going to go out there. I mean, that is one of the ways that you don't even have to talk about having a minimum wage, right? If the government is guaranteeing every single person a job, and not only guaranteeing every single person a job, but is saying every single person who has a job will make at least $15 an hour. The private sector could never pay anybody less than $15 an hour. So you can kill two birds with one stone. For all those GOP folks who don't want to sign up for a minimum wage, that's fine. No more minimum wage needed. But the government guarantees a job for everybody, and that job pays at least $15 an hour. Guess what? Nobody's going to go work at McDonald's for $10 an hour then. They'll always go and say, instead of working for McDonald's, you can go for the government and get $15 an hour. And guess what? It comes with benefits. It comes with benefits. And then, of course, by then we have Medicare for all, c'est la vie. And you see, one of the reasons that our corporations don't like things like good social programs is that they want the power over you. They want to own you. And if you don't have all those resources, they own you. That's the reason they fight against it. They don't fight against it because they're mean. They fight against it because they know it'll cost them more. It'll cost their shareholders more to hold on to people because people now have options. That's why they didn't want Obamacare. Obamacare meant that those people who had grandeur thoughts about starting their own business but couldn't because they had a pre-existing condition or healthcare was too high, now with Obamacare that they could actually afford to buy their own single plan, guys who don't like their jobs will just say, you know what, I can go ahead and do better on my own. And they do. They did. Many are. Now they're realizing that they've made a mistake. Many of those conservatives who took advantage of Obamacare are now realizing that what Brother Trump is doing now is going to have a material effect on that. Anyhow, when one makes a demand, jobs as a right, the first response from the establishment is that it cannot help. We cannot do it because the resources are not there. America's infrastructure is in ruins. Many baby boomers will require care for several decades. Teachers and many other professions are stressed because they don't have enough bodies. They don't have enough bodies. The question we must ask is simple. If there is much work to be done, and there are many people that are unemployed, underemployed, or overworked, then if the current economic model prevents that connection or resolution of employment flaws, it is not only flawed and unsustainable, but a danger to society. Now, I want you guys to remember this. Think about this. Go outside your home right now. Well, not right now, after the show. Take a look at your streets. Take a look at your medians. take a look at your freeway. And what you're going to hear is our infrastructure is in shambles. Go to LaGuardia Airport. Go to Kennedy Airport. Go to all these airports and then go to Shanghai. Or go to Xi'an. Or go to these other places overseas. Our airports, from Make America Great Again, look like crap. I am originally from Central America, Panama. I went home and was like, wow, look at our airport here in Panama. And then look at your average airport here in any one of these major cities. They need a lot of work. Look at your streets. They need a lot of work. Look at your bridges. They need a lot of work. Look at your offices. They need a lot of work. And the reason the work isn't getting done is because they say, well, we don't have the money to do it. So you have an economy that supposedly is doing very well. You have a certain amount of unemployed people. And you also have a lot of work that needs to be done, not only in infrastructure, but taking care of the baby boomers, but getting more teachers. All these things need to be done. And the economy is humping along fine. Why can't they be done? Oh, well, there's no money. That tells you several things. One, your tax system is somehow not working right. And number two, the economic model that you're running is not working. If you cannot link all these people that need jobs to jobs that need to be done, that's a failure of your economic model. It's that simple. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. If there's a lot of work to be done, I repeat, if there's a lot of work to be done, if there are people that are there to do the work, but the connection cannot be made between the work and the people, the economic model has failed. And that is something that we have to really be cognizant of. That is something that as Americans, we have to stop believing the bull coming out of the plutocracy that somehow it is our fault either that we are not educated enough, that we are not capable enough, or that there's money's not there, when 10% of the people have 90% of the income and wealth. All right? These things do not compute, and unless you take it seriously, unless you go ahead and tell folks about this, unless you're serious about this, it'll continue over and over again. All right, before I continue, let me go ahead and check, see what my good folks on Facebook are saying. Bear with me as I bring that up. But folks, this is most of our issues here in our economy, believe it or not, and why things aren't getting done and why our economic model hasn't changed is that people are not being communicated to. You don't have enough people relaying the message. You don't have enough people telling Americans how things really work. We just have a mainstream media that does not spend a whole lot of time telling people what needs to be told. And it looks like we've just lost our signal for some reason. So therefore, I am going to have to reconnect the signal somehow. Okay, we got it back. Great. We got our signal back. Anyhow, you probably lost the signal for a few seconds. One of the biggest problems we have right now is a communication issue with our folks in this country. And once we can resolve that, once we can really, really start communicating with folk. There we go again. Connection problems. Let's go ahead and wait and hope that it comes back again. We're having a slight community. There we go. It's coming back again. We came back. Great. All right, folks. Look. Let's get to the questions now that we have from more folks. Okay, Michael Rudden says unions, protesting, strikes, boycotting, divesting, social medias. These or methods by which restore worker power. You're absolutely correct. All right, we have Michael Rudden says full employment equal 5%. Okay, if your goal is full employment, you must provide those you condemn to unemployment. Look, and that's what I'm saying. If your economic model depends on having unemployed people so that, what they say is when people are transitioning from jobs and all of that, if that is what your economic model requires, then hell yes, you need to support those people who are making the sacrifice for your economic model. No two ways about it. You're absolutely right, Mr. Rudnin. Okay, let's get to, let's see. I buy most things with cash. My bank doesn't have much info about me at all. Facebook scandal with Cambridge Analytica was about the quizzes granted. Yeah, you're right about that. Whenever you take a quiz on Facebook, you run the risk of capturing a whole lot of data and giving it to somebody else. And a lot of people don't realize that, but that is what happens. Okay, let's see. Chase Escamilla, Mark Zuckerberg destroying the conservatives that don't even have an account. Yeah, I mean, these are people that want to make decisions. These are people that are making rules and haven't got a clue what they're talking about, but somehow they probably depend on their staff, but a lot of their staffs are usually sort of ideological. And let's see, I see Mr. Rudden, it seems like you went ahead and you found the second Bill of Rights that I have on our system. That is great. I really wish FDR's second Bill of Rights passed. It would have changed our nation for better in such a major way, not that such couldn't come to pass in the future. No. Look, here's the deal. One of the reasons we are doing this, one of the reasons there is a politics done right, one of the reasons that we have all these issues really, okay, is exactly that, Michael. We want to make a difference. And, while running my software company, everything's going fine. And the question you always ask yourself when you see people doing things is it's like somebody else is going to be out there to do it. Somebody's always out there to do it. But here is the issue. It's like when I ask people to subscribe to Politics Done Right. Most people that hear the message, they believe somebody else is going to do it. But if everybody believes somebody else is going to do it, nobody does it. And in fact, let me do that right now. Let me go ahead and ask all of you that are listening to the show, and then I'll get back to the questions. All of you that are listening to the show, I ask you to become subscribers of the show. And not only become subscribers of the show, but become active with the show. In other words, every day we give you a show. Every day I select a topic based on either something I see on the news or something that tickles my fancy, or something that somebody may send me in an email. I'm asking of my audience to do something special. Yesterday you saw somebody take over the show, which is how it's supposed to work. In other words, the goal of this show is to educate. The goal of this show is to bring to you what's most important to you. And there are times that somebody like myself won't know something that is out there that is important to you, and you may say, you may call in and say, let's cover this. And we drop the show and say, guys, go to the blog post, and that was a show for today, but we're going to talk about this subject in real time that somebody wants to talk about. And that's how we run our show here. I ask you to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright and become a subscriber. It's next to nothing, my friends, next to nothing. But if we get hundreds of people signing up, and that's what we really need, hundreds of people signing up, it's just like I told you earlier, for those who were here before, what I want to establish in the long run with workers. And that is put the worker back in control, whether unionized or not. And how can we do something like that? We can target companies, and in the process of targeting companies, we can pool our monies to support those people who we're asking to target their company and leave. And, but all of this requires us working together. All of it requires us working together. So what I ask is, go ahead and support shows like ours as well. Politics Done Right at patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is the way we do it. Okay, let me get back and tell you the telephone number to call in is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812 if you'd like to add to the show. We have Case Escamilla. You're running a whole production and hitting all three ways of communication. That's a talent. Look, man, we have to do it. I ran a full software company by myself. I wrote the manuals. I have over 20 different software products. If you could go to my company's website, you'll see them. 20 different software products. Wrote all the manuals, got them all printed, processed. It started in days when you actually had books, some of them 200, 300 pages for to use your software. And then it went online. All of that was done in-house. Program all the software at the same time, did all the marketing. In the days when you advertise your software in magazines, we did all of that. We had a huge advertising budget for the software in these magazines. And then eventually it went online, and we did that as well. So, I mean, this is almost like peanuts compared to that, compared to how that was. So, in effect, I'm blessed because that technology made this that much easier. Now, let's see. Good timing. Ted Cruz is speaking. Can't stand him. Thanks for the progress. I aim to please. I aim to please. Okay, let's see. Case, that is no middleman anymore. Absolutely. I don't have a problem with middle people that add value. In other words, Microsoft created Windows. All right? Windows had lousy serial communication. What gave my product fame was that I wrote a piece of software that made serial communication under Windows viable in high-tech environments. And so in effect, I was mooching off of Windows, but I was adding value to it. And that is let's say somebody decided that they wanted to help me with a website. I can do websites, but they can add value to the website. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with third persons. What I have a problem with are brokers that they're the type of third persons that don't provide real value, but always win. In other words, if I provide a value, I will get paid. If a broker provide a value, whether you lose money or you gain money, he or she gets paid. There's a problem with that model. It's it's a way of looking at things that I think folks ought to look at. There are certain professions we don't require success out of, but others that we demand success out of. That bridge, I-35 bridge in Minnesota that fell, those engineers, I don't have to say any more on that. Okay, we have Michael Root and Egberto. You didn't read the most important part about Facebook Cambridge Analytical scandal. Quizzes granting friends of friends permission. Well, I didn't do it, but I have very smart listeners. You sure did. So now, for you doing that, my listeners are that much more educated. So, folks, give us a call, 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Let's see if there are any more that I forgot to take. And by the way, let's see. Just let me tell you that on the KPFT show on Thursday, that is going to be Thursday at 3 p.m. And you can access us the same way, but you can also access us on 90.1 FM in Houston. We are going to have somebody somebody out of the field. And what I said when I started this program is the kind of folk that we are going to highlight are folks that are out there working. Those folks that are out there doing something for our progressive movement. So what I want to do is tell you guys that we're going to have a local Houston activist, and the things that we're going to discuss is going to be really covering the entire country. But this is a local activist in town that is working very hard on the progressive movement that would otherwise not have a platform. And I said, we'll give him a platform. And just like anyone else here who is doing something positive in the movement, with politics done right, this platform is yours. Whether you call in or if you're in the Houston area, we'll bring you into the studio and you'll be a part of the show, like you've seen many people from all over the country actually come on and do politics done right. So what are your thoughts? Give me a shout at 646-716-5812. Or you can remember to go ahead and place a message either on Twitter with the hashtag politics done right, or you can likewise go ahead and under the Facebook page on this program for the show, you can just go leave me a message. We have Michael Rudden who says, paid for commission, Wall Street runs by that model. Curious, did you watch Wolf of Wall Street? I don't think I watched that movie. No, I didn't see that. I'm Wall Street for me is nothing more than legalized gambling. And they like to talk about EBITDA and all these different techniques or for using for playing the stock market, shorts and pulls and long. I mean, look, I know them, but as far as I'm concerned, it is nothing but legalized gambling and all. It's both legalized gambling and conniving, right? Because when you're on the stock market, if you are creating structures like collars to guard your money, right? In other words, you create a collar so that if the market goes up or down within a particular range, still it doesn't affect you too much. Okay, I get it. But what does that mean for the other person? What does that mean? And not only that, what is it that you're doing to either protect your money, to gain your money, or to lose your money? What are you physically doing? What are you intellectually doing for that? That is a problem that I have with the model. The problem that I have with the model is there are some people in this country who are making, and by the way, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I have a few, very small amount of money that I had in my retirement in the stock market. I finally went all cash, and now it's mostly all gone because political activists don't make any money and you still have to pay your bills. But I find it almost fraudulent that we have a lot of people out there working their asses off every day, getting an hourly wage, and having to pay up to 30-something, near 40% of that wage in taxes. And somebody sitting down at their pool who makes capital gains, meaning they sell the stock and the stock went up 30%, and that is income. And the only thing they pay on that is I think the capital gains rate is up to what, 20 or 25%. I don't remember what it is right now. It simply is not fair. And those are the types of laws that promote income inequality, wealth disparity. That is what those are the kind of laws that do that. And that is how our economy is run. And until we actively change that, nothing will be different. It is imperative then that what we do is educate each other on how these things really work. And that is what we don't do. You know, we have the mainstream media that they're talking a whole lot of crap that doesn't have a direct impact on you. And as they talk things that don't have a direct impact on you, the things that should be talked about, the things that we should be discussing, aren't. Like what's happening to healthcare now. Like next year, there will be policies competing with the marketplace that are going to be much cheaper than the marketplace because they offer little real insurance, but they will put a facade on it that makes it look like insurance. It'll be a lot cheaper than the marketplace. And then a lot of people are going to leave the marketplace because they were fooled into buying this cheap insurance. And that in itself will cause the marketplace to collapse because the marketplace rates will have to go up and up and up as less and less people form part of the marketplace. So there are a lot of things that should be spoken about on the television right now that aren't. And what we need to do, why we need the Politics Done Right and the TYTs and all the others, why we need them, is to let you know that, and not only to let you know that, but to put this information out here so you can share that and let other people know what's going on. Let's see what else I have here. I have, Rudden said, for starters, long-term capital gains are still defined as gains made on assets that you held for over a year, while short-term capital gains come from assets you held for a year or less. Long-term gains are at rates of 0, 15, and 20% depending on tax bracket, while short-term gains are taxed as ordinary income. Yes, I did know that short-term gains, in other words, you can't buy the stock today, sell it tomorrow, and the appreciation not count as income, as regular standard income. But the thing about it is most of these big investors, that's not their goal. Their goal is to buy that stock and hold it long enough to get the capital gains all the way down to 0, 15, or 20. I mean, look, the game is stacked against the average American citizen. We know that. The thing about it is that Americans don't know that the game is stacked against them. They believe the crap they hear on mainstream media. They believe that if they just try hard enough, they'll succeed. If they just work hard enough, they'll succeed. If they just go ahead and buy their home, they'll succeed. That's what they believe. That's what they've been taught. But don't we really know that even your home, which used to be the place that you hold your value when you die, the home that you owned, could then be turned over to your kids who now got a new degree of wealth, but now they're using psychological methodologies to take that away from you. How? Ever heard of something called reverse mortgage? Look, let me tell you. There are some people who their only choice is to use a reverse mortgage because they're simply out of cash flow. The system has beaten them, and the only place they have cash left is in their home, and they just need their home for survival. That's understood. But now there's advertising that's saying, hey, go have a party. Go have fun. Go on a vacation. You're sitting down on a ton of money. And guess what? You still own the home. No, you don't. The bank owns your home. After you've paid for it and you take out a reverse loan on it? No, they own it. And if your offspring wants it, pay up. Then you can take it. Why is your offspring going to pay up? You know? So, I mean, it is completely, our system is completely stacked against us. And it is important. But the reason it stays stacked against us is that most Americans fail to realize that it is stacked against us. So let's see. Some more notes here. Bruce. I am late here, but the Democrats were determining Facebook for Obama 5 years ago. Were data mining? Yes, they were. Yes, they were. And that's why, Bruce, I don't. If you were here earlier, you'd hear me mention about if you really want security, you should be off the internet because, first of all, Facebook is giving you all this stuff for free. They're not really giving it for free. You're just happen to be the commodity that they're selling. And when I use Facebook, I know that. One of the reasons I have an issue with Facebook is trying to get our message across on Facebook sometimes is expensive as well. Because, again, it's Facebook. But what I tell people, don't expect security for free. Now, I think Facebook is getting ready to create a paid model. I actually believe they're going to monetize this fiasco. I think Facebook, in the long run, monetizes this security breach. And the way they monetize the security breach is they said, you know what? We are going to have a paid class. Facebook will be free for everybody. But we're going to have a paid class where we save none of your info, we sell none of your info, and for that, you pay X amount of dollars. Just think about that. Monetizing a failure. Corporations can do it, baby. Corporations can do it. But we're coming to the end of the show. I want to thank you for being here one more time. I want to ask you as well to please do remember to share our shows. It is very, very important if we're going to get this message across. Like I said, Thursday we're going to have a great guest in Neil Aquino, who is an activist out here in Houston, but the kind of activism he does, it's valid throughout the country, and I think you'd learn quite a bit from what we're going to talk about. Tomorrow I don't have a topic yet. If you guys have a specific topic you would love to speak about, feel free to drop a line at info@politicsdoneright.com. Look, we need to stay afloat, and to stay afloat, this is my last ask for the day. I'd like to ask you guys to consider going to patreon.com, patreon.com/politicsdoneright, and support progressive media. Support progressive media. What we need is folks to make that pledge. We need hundreds of you, to put it bluntly, to go ahead and keep this viable, because like I said, our intent remains the same: to continue the dialogue, 1, to bring progressives, 2, and to make sure that you know this platform is yours, 3, which means you control the show. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. Again, I ask you to go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright after the show. You can click on that link directly from the Facebook page that we are showing this on. And let's go ahead and make a difference. Egberto Willies, Politics Done Right, and I am out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.